What do you think your Wi Fi, Bluetooth, and the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II have in common? If you said one of the most beautiful Hollywood actresses of her time, then you, my friend, are correct. Today we are going to talk about Hedwig, not that one. Yes, this one. Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler, better known as Hedy Lamarr, the woman who helped invent the foundation of modern wireless communication. But before we get to her, let us step back and see the world that made her invention necessary. And hey, if you enjoy learning about these untold stories where technology and history collide, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss the next one. It helps me keep telling stories like this. World War I did not begin with a single spark, but with years of tension, as the great powers of Europe watched each other closely, building armies, navies, and resentment. Germany was challenging Britain on the seas. France had not forgotten its humiliation in the Franco-Prussian War, and Austria-Hungary and Russia were at each other's throats over the Balkans. When the Archduke of Austria was assassinated in Sarajevo, the alliances fell into place like dominoes, and by August 1914, the world was at war. This was a meat grinder of industrial war, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, with machine guns tearing down waves of soldiers, poison gas drifting across trenches, tanks rumbling forward, and airplanes clashing in the skies. None of these machines mattered, however, without one invisible force: communication. Orders had to reach the front, artillery had to be coordinated, and fleets had to maneuver, which is where wireless technology entered the battlefield. To understand what wireless really was, we need to go back to the 1860s when James Clerk Maxwell described electricity and magnetism as ripples that could move through space like waves on water. 20 years later, Heinrich Hertz proved Maxwell right, setting up a spark that sent ripples into the air and building a loop of wire to catch them. When the spark jumped, a faint signal appeared across the room, and for the first time, humanity had seen radio waves in action. Proving a wave existed is one thing, but using it to send a message is another. That leap was made by Guglielmo Marconi, who connected a spark transmitter to a Morse key, tapping out dots and dashes, short and long bursts of energy. A receiver on the other side picked them up, turning the invisible ripples into clicks that spelled words. Initially, the range was short, but with taller antennas and stronger transmitters, Marconi stretched the distance further and further until a signal crossed the Atlantic Ocean in 1901. When the Great War began, every army wanted this power, and ships, generals, and airplanes all used wireless to stay in touch, coordinate attacks, and tap out reports. But these early radios were crude. They used a single frequency, a narrow stream of communication that anyone nearby could listen in on or interfere with. If an enemy transmitted on the same frequency, your message was drowned in static. Imagine trying to have a conversation in a crowded room where everyone is shouting at once. Sometimes the order to attack arrived too late, sometimes not at all, and lives were lost because wireless, while powerful, was still fragile. War ended in 1918, leaving Europe in ruins, but the lesson was clear. The next war would be fought with better weapons and better communication. The Treaty of Versailles punished Germany brutally with heavy reparations, loss of territory, and humiliation. And inflation destroyed savings, unemployment soared, and people starved. The middle class saw their wealth vanish, and many, poisoned by prejudice, turned against the Jews. It's true that many Jews held positions in finance, media, and politics, and in the misery of defeat, this was twisted into a narrative of betrayal. While Jews were not innocent of influence, the way Hitler weaponized that anger was monstrously disproportionate. By the 1930s, Adolf Hitler had risen by offering a simple promise: a scapegoat and pride. He told the German people their suffering was not their fault, blaming enemies inside and outside the country. His anti-Semitism turned prejudice into policy, and desperation turned ordinary people into willing followers. The Second World War began with invasions of Austria, Czechoslovakia, and then Poland in 1939, and soon Europe was once again in flames. This time, the weapons were sharper, Tanks were faster and deadlier, planes could rain destruction on cities, and submarines prowled the Atlantic, cutting supply lines. Once again, behind every bomb and bullet was the invisible war of communication, with radios everywhere, from the cockpit of a Spitfire to the command rooms of the Kriegsmarine. Submarines used them to report positions, armies to coordinate blitzkrieg attacks, and navies to guide torpedoes, but the flow from World War I remained. Messages rode on single frequencies, narrow streams of energy so enemies could jam them. In battle, that meant a guided torpedo would lose its signal and drift uselessly. Millions of dollars in weapons and countless lives were lost because radio signals were so easy to disrupt. The Allies needed a new way to communicate, something that could not be silenced, and this is where Hedy Lamarr's story joins the world stage. Born in Vienna just months into the First World War, Hedy grew up a Jewish child in a world of collapse and reinvention. By the age of 18, she was already famous for her role in the film Ecstasy, but her life changed when she married Fritz Mendel, an arms dealer and one of the richest men in Austria. His lavish parties were filled with military officers and scientists discussing the latest technology, and Hedy, often ignored, listened carefully, learning how radio-guided bombs worked and how easily they were defeated by jamming. Her marriage was a cage, as Mendel was controlling and abusive, and with Austria falling under the shadow of Hitler, her Jewish heritage put her in danger. She escaped and fled to Hollywood, where she reinvented herself as Hedy Lamarr. While the public saw glamour, inside she was restless, and with war raging in Europe and U-boats sinking ships, she knew she had knowledge that could help. In Los Angeles, she met George Antheil, an eccentric composer, and together they tackled the problem of secure communication. A radio signal at the time was like a narrow stream of water easy to block, and Hedy's idea was, what if instead of sending your message down one narrow stream, you sent it across many rivers at once, jumping from one to another faster than the enemy could react? Blocking one stream is simple. Blocking 80 at once is nearly impossible. This is frequency hopping, where both the sender and receiver switch frequencies in perfect sync, like dancers moving together across a floor. To the enemy, it sounds like nonsense, random noise spread across the air, but to those who know the pattern, the message is clear. Hedy and Antheil even proposed using player piano rolls to keep the pattern synchronized, a clever mechanical solution, and in 1942, they received a patent for their invention, the foundation of what we now call spread spectrum technology. However, the Navy did not use it, partly because the electronics of the time were not advanced enough, but also because of arrogance. They told Hedy to sell war bonds instead. Misogyny and institutional blindness buried the idea, and her invention was locked away as classified. F. The transistor, invented in 1947, changed everything. Suddenly, electronics could switch fast enough to make frequency hopping practical, and by the Cold War, the Navy had quietly adopted spread spectrum for secure communications. It was used in the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, but by then, her patent had expired, and she received no money or recognition. Her idea evolved into technologies that shape our lives today, with GPS signals using spread spectrum to resist interference, Bluetooth hopping between frequencies just as she imagined, and Wi-Fi relying on the same principles to keep data moving in crowded airwaves. Every time you connect your phone or stream a video, you are using Hedy Lamarr's invention. But her personal life did not follow the same arc. Hollywood spotlight faded, marriages collapsed, and money disappeared. She faced arrests and ridicule, living her final years in obscurity. The world finally began to honor her in the 1990s, and in 2014, she was posthumously inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. But by then, she was long gone, having died in 2000. Hedy's story is more than Hollywood gossip or a curious footnote. It is the story of how desperation in war pushed humanity to invent, how a woman dismissed for her beauty solved a problem that generals and admirals could not, and how bias and arrogance delayed an idea that could have saved lives. It is also a reminder that the foundations of our modern world often come from unexpected places. If you found this story fascinating, take a moment now to like this video and subscribe because there are so many more hidden figures and forgotten ideas that shape the world we live in, and I want to share them with you. And the next time you connect to Wi-Fi, remember, it was once an idea sketched by a woman at her drafting table in Hollywood, trying to win a war she had escaped.